Welcome back to the Bookfest Club. I am your host, Jay, and tonight we're going to be talking about Freida McFadden's The Inmate. Listen, y'all know Freida is my GOAT, hands down. So I'm always going to keep it a band when it comes to Freida, whether the good, the bad, the indifferent, right? I seen a lot of people online didn't really care for The Inmate. So I said, yo, let me add this one to my Freida catalog. I read it before a couple of years ago, but I was like, let me revisit it again so I can talk about it, right? So I don't want to keep you good people waiting, right? This is a nice little thriller and suspense, a little quick one, right? I believe it's maybe between 288 pages and 320 pages. Correct me if I'm wrong. Sound off in the comments if I'm wrong, but the book opens up with Brooke arriving on her first day at Riker Maximum Security Prison. I guess that's supposed to be a spinoff to Rikers, but she can't really probably use that. Copyright infringement and all that. So I felt like when we move over to our critique rubric, the hook, did it grab us immediately? Of course, right? She just been hired as a nurse practitioner. She's going into a prison. We know the book is about some type of inmate, but we don't really know what's really going on. So that for me, it made me invested early because I've worked inside of an institution. So I kind of know the ins and out of what's going on. I've seen a lot of people get walked out for dealing with inmates, you know what I'm saying? Nurses, counselors, officers, anybody in a prison. I've seen it all. So for me, this book had personal interest for me because I've actually seen it. So now I get a chance to read it. And I knew she was going to have some type of love interest when we meet Shane later on in the book, right? So I think that Freida did a great job of capturing us with the hook immediately. And you got to take these books into sections, right? People will just read a book and then they'll just judge it based off of their reading experience, which is rightfully so. But sometimes in these books, you have to take certain parts of the book. You might not like one part, but you let that part overtake everything else that might have been good in the book, right? So for me, when I read a book, I can say a book wasn't bad. I can say a book was bad, but then I'm going to give you the points and the attributes to why I feel like the book didn't resonate with me. So I feel like for the hook, I was already sucked in, paused. I think that it didn't take too long to build. I think that she gave us the right amount. To me, this is a short thriller. It didn't take too long for everything to get rolling. So I think that she capitalized off the hook because that's what's going to keep a reader at the end of the day. So I think for number 2, plot and twist, what a twist, shocking or predictable? I think it was predictable. I don't think I was shocked by anything. I wish it would have been Tim, right? And we're going to talk about the book in its entirety as well. But I thought it would have been Tim, right? The Shane unveiling, the mother unveiling, like all of that stuff didn't really rock me because I've read Freida books before and those thrillers kind of got through to me. So this one wasn't really like a real twisty, you know what I'm saying, shock. And I think the plot stayed tight. I think she kept to the story. I don't think she deviated from the storyline at all. I think it stayed tight with the family, her family, the friends. And it wasn't a lot of people in here, but it was a lot of people, if that makes sense. But it was enough people in here to keep the story going and keep everything in the same vicinity. It wasn't really all over the place like that, right? Because you got Brooke who works at a prison. Now she's seeing her ex-boyfriend, Shane, right? And Shane is somebody who said that he didn't, one fateful night, right? Everybody, let me just give you my overall thoughts, right? One fateful night, Brooke, Shane, Tim, and a couple of other friends were chilling at Shane's crib because Shane's mother was gone, right? Supposedly she was gone. And then they lost power, right? And then the friends start getting killed off one by one, right? They kind of stuck together. I ain't gonna lie. They really stuck together at some point, but they kind of didn't, right? At least the girls didn't. The dudes was just all over the place. So the problem with Brooke's issue was that she was knocked out. So all she could remember was sandalwood and seeing the necklace. The necklace plays a key part and the sandalwood plays a key part because all the setup is going to happen. But that's the basis of the book, right? Friends chilling one night, and just think about it. To me, it rang like Scream, right? Friends chilling one night, then the killer's out there. They're taking the friends over one by one. Nobody can, you know what I'm saying, correlate who the killer is. And then the unveiling of the killer, you know, somebody virginity gets taken, which was another trope that I didn't like because you get, I'm gonna spoil it anyway, right? Shane and Brooke have sex that night, right? And unprotected, obviously, because she gets pregnant on that one try, on that one night, and her parents make her leave Raker. Like, they make her leave the city because they something happened, and we'll talk about that. But I think that in the suspension, the tension, it did create real anxiety because you didn't know who. Reading the book, you didn't know who. You're always going to have your suspicion, but Freida did a good job at, I think, creating that space where tension can reside in the book, right? It gave you enough tension. You might have been like, oh, this is another, I can guess, but it still created some type of attention, and the stakes was high because somebody went to prison for what, 10, 11 years for this, right? So now somebody has to, in order for Shane to get out, she has to recant her story because Shane is guilt tripping her every time he see her. And it's just like how it is in real life. Like an offender will, weasel his way in with small compliments here and there until the big stuff starts sticking in. So he's just like, yo, Brooke, do you think I would really do this to you? And Brooke is like, I don't know. Like Brooke, her whole she just ticked me off. Like her being the FMC, she was very indecisive between Tim and Shane. I didn't like how she was with Shane and then with Tim and then, turned on Shane. I felt like you don't remember anything, so you don't really know what happened at the farmhouse, even when your friends was murdered. You were attacked and strangled with a necklace. You know what I'm saying? You couldn't see the necklace clearly, but the sandalwood smell helped you convince you that it was Shane. That didn't make sense to me. I'm like, you don't really know. How do you know based off of a scent and a Shane? Like your testimony was the reason why Shane went to prison. And 11 years later, Shane tell you that you got it wrong and you start questioning your own memory. So it took for you to come back for you to really start recanting your story. So I just think that was the urgency in the book. Like, all right, if he didn't do it, if Shane didn't kill your friends and try to kill you that night, then who did it? It's the only survivors left is you, Tim, and Shane. Somebody did it, right? It would have been dope if Brooke would have been imagining that and she was the one who actually killed everybody. That would have been dope, but I knew Freida wasn't going there, right? So Brooke memories. So then we get back. So I felt like the suspension and tension, she definitely touched on that a little bit. I think that she did a good job of, moving the story along and keeping everybody, with the stakes high and the urgency and anxiety. I think that she did a good job with that, right? As we move on to characters, we have Brooke Sullivan, right? My problem with Brooke is that, she was just way too easily influenced, by whoever spoke to her last. Whether it was Tim who spoke to her last or whether it was Shane who spoke to her last. Shane says Tim did it. She starts questioning Tim. Evidence points to Tim. She's convinced Tim is the murderer. More information comes out. She changes her theory again. And I'm like, I understand the traumatic memory, but Brooke repeatedly goes from having doubt to become completely convinced a new theory without even slowing down and thinking about it. You're a nurse practitioner, bro. Like, how are you not thinking about these things clearly? Whoever spoke to you last, that's who you believe in. You're basing your thing off a sandalwood and necklace. Come on, a necklace. Come on, Freida. I know you could do better than this. So that kind of, ticked me off, with Brooke. And I think that the strong protagonist, in this was, I think Brooke. Brooke was a strong protagonist. I can't really give it to Shane. Shane was a master manipulator, right? But before we get into that, it was like Tim was framed, like Tim is just like, he really, really loves her. Like he loved her since they was kids, right? I believe they lived next to each other. They was close neighbors. And, Tim, like he helped get Shane in there. He helped get Shane in there as well. And it's like you wind up getting Tim knocked because you believe Shane and you recanted your story. That helps get Shane's release and Tim gets locked up. You become so convinced of Tim's guilt that you recant your story and you get the testimony because you found Kelly's dead body in Tim's basement. So you think Tim killed that girl and put her in the basement. So basically that was like the whole setup, right? Kelly is the woman. Let me give you some backstory. Kelly is the woman that flirts with Tim while he's with Brooke. Later on, Brooke discovers that Kelly was murdered in Tim's basement. But why would you think that? So she probably thought that Tim was a killer, just killing people out there, right? But we know that his body was placed. We know, as you're reading the book, if you read the book, you know that Kelly's body was placed there. And I can't tell you about who yet because you gotta have context, right? But that was like, it was like almost like proof that she was guilty, right? She was part of the plan. The person was part of the plan to make Tim look guilty because he is the only one that survived. So he looks like he's going to be the one that's guilty, right? So I think that with with that part, I think Tim Reese was like, he was set up. They was friends for years, and when she returned home, they get back romantically involved, right? She really starts to feel Tim, and they develop a relationship. And he actually developed a relationship with the son as well. He becomes like a positive role model in Josh's life, right? And Tim's weird. The reason why it becomes suspicious for Tim is because he begins to wear sandal. He starts wearing the sandalwood scent that Brooks remembers from her attack, right? We learn about Tim's connection to Tracy Guilford, another murdered girl, right? It's just like all of these murders that's happened is pointing to Tim. And Tim is kind of looking guilty, but it was too easy, right? And I think that's what frustrated. What I read as far as like from people was a lot of people was, frustrated with Tim because it looked like a lot of people was frustrated with Tim because, well, they was frustrated with Brooke because you should have known it was a setup. You're not really using your mind at the end of the day. You are a nurse again. You've been through school. You got theories in your head that and it's just like she was just so dizzy in my eyes. Now let's talk about Shane, right? Because Shane was Brooke's high school boyfriend who he spent 11 years in prison because of Brooke's testimony, right? He knows Brooke is Shane and Josh, that's his biological son, right? Because when we know that Brooke and Shane had sex on that night and then she got pregnant, but Shane never knew, right? Because her parents sent her away. They kind of shunned her and sent her away, but there's a reason why they shunned her, right? Shane's manipulation, like he knows exactly. Shane was a manipulator in the book. He knew exactly how to make Brooke feel guilty. And instead of like the conversation around Brooke surviving, it was like, what if you sent the innocent man to prison? That was kind of what he used on Brooke. You know what I'm saying? And because of her love for him that she had in the past, that what if you sent the innocent man to prison kind of trope worked. And then that's when like her direction, her suspicion started turning towards Tim, which was again, misdirection. Like the manipulation works because these strange things around that happened to Tim now makes Shane's story sound convincing. You know what I'm saying? And once Shane is released, we know, however, Brooke's fear of originally fearing him was the truth, right? So I think that with the characters, it was a good writing for the characters. You had Hunt, you know what I'm saying? You had Margie, you had Kelly, you had Pamela, you had Shane. Like you had a lot of good characters in the book. You had Shane Nelson, you had Dorothy, you had Dr. Hewitt, who was the doctor at the prison. You had C.O. Hunt, him and C.O. Hunt, right, used to go to school with them as well. And C.O. Hunt was kind of one of them dudes who he was in the Brooke as well, but he was like showing it in a different way. He was very nasty to her, but he was, to me, in the way he was doing his CO duties, but he was still beating Pete. Like he was wilding. He wasn't as clean as a whistle. He was a typical CO and what COs do. So I think that Officer Hunt was just like, he was a jerk and he was an asshole. And I'm gonna be honest, he was an asshole. Dorothy was just kind of one of the people who helped Brooke learn the rules and the realities of working around inmates. She was trying to give Brooke the scoop on what was going on in the prison, not to fall for anything, because these inmates could be manipulative. And Hunt was just in her way all the time, telling her no, she can't do this, she can't do that, busting in the door while she was with her patients. So come to find out, they used to go to school together. And that was his affinity with Brooke at that point. Most memorable, and we still in characters, right? But I feel like the most memorable is it gotta be Margie, right? It gotta be Margie. But Margie was really who? Margie was somebody who babysitted Josh for, oh man, I had a brain freeze for Brooke. Margie definitely babysitted Josh for Brooke when she was at work. And she was like the house nanny, a harmless old woman that Brooke could depend on, for real. If that's what we really want to say, right? She babysits Josh, she give Brooks advice. So Brooks turned to trust her because she don't have nobody else. Her parents is dead, right? But how did they die? Nobody really knows, right? She becomes like normal within Brooke's life. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't have no reason to suspect that Margie, you know what I'm saying, was going to do anything. But this is where Freida got me with the twist. Let me go back to that part. This is where she got me with the twist. Because we find out that Marjorie is Pamela Nelson, who is Shane Nelson's mother. So Margie, this whole time, that was the main twist in the book, that Marjorie, who is this sweet older woman, turned out to be a crazed killer, and she was Shane Nelson's mother. And the reason why she was trying to go at Brooke is because her and the pops used to mess around, right? They was on the low, but then he dubbed her, right? He dubbed her, and I started to think like, yo, I know Freida not gonna do no incest craziness in this jump. But nah, Marjorie, who is Pamela Nelson, wound up taking out her parents, right? And that's how she got the house. They left everything to her, but her parents was murdered. You know what I'm saying? All because she couldn't be with Brooke's pops. So that's the basis of what we're going with, right? Brooke's dad was having an affair. All of this is happening because Brooke's dad was having an affair with Pamela Nelson, right? Pamela Nelson couldn't take it. So one night she tried to take out everybody at the house. It was her and her son. So she actually never even left, right? As we moving on to the writing and the pacing, she never left. So she was actually there that night that the high school kids was in the crib. You know what I'm saying? So she was helping her son take them out one by one on some weird, wicked stuff. So she was the actual killer, her and her son Shane, all because she got rejected after she gave up the cheeks to Brooke's pops, right? So all of this stuff is happening just because of that. So let's be clear. We get Brooke working at the prison, coming back after 10 years because her parents died, and she wanted to come back after a fresh start to get a fresh start, right? Margie is the babysitter, who is Pamela Nelson. Shane is trying to convince Brooke that he was innocent and she should look into Tim. She starts to believe it. Tim is going through these cycles where it starts to look like he is the killer, and then that bodies turn up at his crib. She recants her story and gets Shane out of prison, which then gets Tim locked up. And this is where we are, right? So the writing and pacing, I felt like it was, so as we had a 0.5, the writing and pacing was definitely, I think it was fast paced. It didn't drag at no point. I think the dialogue was sharp. I think she tackled, you know what I'm saying, certain points, certain tropes in the book. I don't think she was over explaining. It could seem like a lot. It was a lot of to me, it was a little bit of over explaining. It wasn't a lot. She kept the dialogue real sharp. It was kind of like they were trying to just break Brooke down, like break her whole character down. And I'm talking about between Margie and between Shane. Like they had this whole plan that was hatched out, that they was going to take Josh from her, kill her, and then they was just going to live happily ever after with the baby, right? I don't know what they would have did with Josh. They probably would have turned him into a killer, but I think this is what they wanted to do, right? So I think Freida's fast pace. I think Freida's pacing in this book was fast paced. I think she had sharp dialogue, and I don't think that she was over explaining. We kind of know everything that was going on. It was a true story going, you know what I'm saying, going as the story went on. It didn't drag at all, right? Originality, I don't think this is an original script. I think that this has been thought out. This is probably like a Lifetime movie, or we probably seen this on Netflix already. So I can't say that there was a lot of overused tropes in this book. You know, the sending an innocent man to jail, getting the wrong man locked up. You got the creepy CEO. You got the mother revenge because of the parents. I think that this wasn't a fresh concept in my eyes. So originality, I don't think that she tackled this is not one of Freida's books where she was actually original. So the original was that. And I don't think it stands out in the thriller space, in my opinion. I don't think this one stands out in the thriller space. And this one kind of shuts the door on the book for me, right? So we get to the ending, and I feel like the satisfying payoff, right? We know that Brooke and Josh, and they go up to the mountains, or not the mountains. They go to this little cabin area where it's a bunch of snow, and it's Shane, it's Josh, it's Brooke, right? And he asks, can he take Josh to go play in the snow, right? My thing is, or make a snowman. Why you didn't make a snowman in the house? Why did you have to take him through the little back way forest thing to make a snowman, right? So in that sense, I'm like, Brooke, you are so stupid. And why, Freida? Why did you have to send them over there? They could have been building it in the front. So I don't think that was a good way to kind of have Shane reveal himself to be really the villain, because in all, like I just was explaining, Shane was the true villain. He really did that night. He tried to take her out after getting the yeek. So he really did try to kill her, and Tim was innocent that whole time. So we find out that Pamela Tim's mom, was the one that was framing Tim. Once Pamela realizes that Brooke is becoming too close to Tim, she gives her the perfect opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Kelly gives her the perfect opportunity to frame her. So Pamela kills Kelly and places her body in Tim's basement. So that's how the body of Kelly got put on Tim and made him look even more guilty, which eventually get him sent to jail. So we found out that Brooke finds the body. It was put there so Brooke can find a body, and she automatically believed that Tim must have been responsible. Remember, I told you it was all going to come together. So Pamela was, because now Shane was in jail. So Pamela was the one, aka Margie. She was the one setting everything up to make it look like that so her son can get out of jail so they could be this happily killing family again, right? So then Brooke recants her testimony against Shane, which actually was exactly what Pam wanted her to do. Shane gets out, Tim goes in. So now our plan, I killed the parents. You spent all that time in jail. I saw that she had a son. We get our son back. She recants her story. We send Tim to jail. We get the baby and we take her out of here. So this is what really blew me, right? So Shane gets out, even though if she believed that Shane was wrongfully, you know what I'm saying, convicted, it still turns out that you haven't known this man for 11 years. Yet, soon as he get out, you move incredibly fast with Shane once he's released, right? And I'm like, why would you move like fast? But she don't know that Tim was already talking to him about his pops or whatever the case may be, right? Or about bad people. So Brooke she just so slow that she think that they're going to have a relationship. She's finally going to have the family that she want with his biological father. But in my eyes, you haven't even had enough to determine if Shane is actually safe. But yet still, you want to just be this family with him. Brooke, please, bro. You really got me, you know what I'm saying? You really got me going. So when they go back to the farmhouse, as she take her, Brooke's memory is starting to come back, right? And she realizes, there may have been two people involved, because how are you going to kill him and then you going to kill this person? She's partly right. Shane was involved. But again, I told you it was another partner. She was wrong. She was wrong about his partner. She thought it was probably him and Tim, which would have really set some Scream type of thing off. But it was Pamela. It was Pamela and Shane working that night against each other, right? Because we know that Pamela's end game was simply revenge. She wants Josh. Josh is Shane's son. That's her grandson. So that's what she wants. And mind you, she did all of this because she thought that Brooke Pops would leave his family for her so they can be a family. So all of this is really just an act of revenge. So we find out that their deaths, Brooke's parents' death wasn't an accident, right? There was it wasn't a tragic accident. It was targeted. And once we found out that Pam is the one, she wanted Brooke back in town. You know what I'm saying? So once she discovered that Josh was her grandson, it was like, well, I can do this and double whammy. And then we got Josh, right? The icicles. Josh is the one that takes out his pops eventually, right? And I'm like, okay, Freida, we get Josh's POV because they take him out in the snow. Something falls on top of Shane. You know what I'm saying? Shane is not completely dead, but we know that Josh is the one who ends him, his own son. The irony in that, right? So we get this like proper send off where we get in Josh POV, and it's like, is he really gonna be his dad? Like, he killed his dad, right? You know what I'm saying? Even though the thing fell on him, it was like Josh was the end all be all for real. So it's like, was he really going to is he going to end his father? Right? That's one of the things that I was like, yo, is he really going to do it? And he did it. So it's like, we get that nice little POV from Josh, and it's like, okay, I had to end my pops because he was treating my moms crazy. I overheard him treating my moms crazy. And Tim already put that bug in his back. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man, Tim. He put the bug in his back, you know what I'm saying, about his dad already. You know what I'm saying? Tim was raising him right, raising him to be a true man. So it really wasn't a freak accident. We all know it was Josh, right? And that's pretty much the Inmate for Freida McFadden. It wasn't like this oversold, overtold story. It was really convenient, something quick to read, and it was easy to read, like I said in the beginning. So, you know what I'm saying, shout out to the 6 teenagers at the farmhouse, Chelsea, Tim, Kayla, Brandon, Shay, Tim, Brooke. You know what I'm saying? That fateful night turned all of this into that book, but it was the beforehand You know what I'm saying? Shane's mom's getting this, that put this night even in the rare eyes, in the eyes of the Nelson family. So for me, I just felt like this Frida book, I gave it, well, let's get back into it now. I gave this book on a scale of 1 to 5 on our bookmark system that we use. I gave this book a 3. It was an okay read. It wasn't nothing too crazy. I know a lot of people are between 2.5 and 3. This is not one of Frida's greatest books. This is not one of her top books. This fall into her C-level category. I gotta keep it a band. It wasn't something that I'm not going to go back to. I think it was a decent book, right? It was a good book. If you need something quick to read, if you listen in the audio book in your car, or maybe it's a fall day, right? A nice little fall day. This is a fall book to get you through a reading slump. It's a nice little thriller. It's not overcomplicated. It's not no crazy twists and turns. It's simple twists, simple turns, right? And that's what you have to do with these books. You know, Frida's a thriller author through and through, right? So you can't go into every Frida book thinking that you're going to get The Housemaid's Secret, or you're going to get Ward D, or you're going to get Never Lie, or you're going to get Dear Debbie. You're not going to get those type of books on every writing from Frida, right? I thought this was an okay book, nothing too crazy. I won't be stopping the microwave for this book. It was just an okay book, man. But until next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe too, man. Like, we right there at the push line, but we thank everybody that's tuned in with us, that's locked in with us on a day-to-day basis, man. And if you haven't read Freida McFadden's The Inmate, and you need something quick to read, and you're in a little book slump, this can get you back into the thriller season. October's coming. The fall is coming. So get this thrillers in your bag, man. Until next time, I'm Jay the Speaker. Peace.